Welcome to Art Talk with April. I'm April Harris. I'm the artist of Inked April, located in Birmingham, Alabama. And this podcast is going to be about all things art. We'll talk about books, invite some artists to interviews, and much, much more. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Art Talk with April. Today we have Evan Nicole. And I actually met Evan through Free Art Birmingham, which is a program that is going on in the Birmingham area, but also nationally. Isn't that right, Evan?
Yes, it is.
Okay. How did you get started in being involved with that?
So I had actually came across it a couple of months after, I guess the founder created it during the summer of 2018. So I came across it of like fall 2018 and just kind of fell in love with going on all the hunts and finding all the art, because I feel like there wasn't a bunch of art stuff going on locally that I was. And so in January of 2019, I just kind of shoot my shot and sent a message to them and was like, hey, I love what y'all do. I would love to help out. Like, I understand this is obviously not like a paid job thing. I'd love to like quote unquote intern just so I can get my hands into it. And then it's basically just been a breeze ever since. And me and the founder, Ashley, have just been working together on several different projects and stuff since then.
That's awesome. And I think also very brave to just like jump out there and be like, hey, can I help?
Oh my goodness, yes, because I am definitely, I'm more brave behind the screen when it comes to things along those lines. And because if I was to meet her on the street, I'd be like, hey, and then just keep walking. So.
Oh, that's so funny. I think I'm the same way. So I would say that you're a photographer and sort of an art enthusiast, right?
Yeah.
Where are you located at?
So I've basically lived my entire life in Pelham, Alabama, and like Alabaster, but I claim more of Pelham. And so I've just grown up in this area, you know, just been here, been around Hoover and Birmingham and stuff, and just really just enjoyed the area for real.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I don't know. See, I'm originally from Montgomery. And so for me, I've only been here about 10 years. And in those 10 years, I feel like, especially like the art scene seems to be growing and more things are happening. How do you feel about that?
I do feel that way just because I remember like going on field trips downtown and stuff like that. There was not that much, there wasn't much to do downtown. And then since like graduating in 2012, I was like getting more heavily into going downtown and doing things. Birmingham has severely progressed in like the last decade for sure.
Yeah. See, I didn't really, I'm more familiar with the Montgomery area and that kind of thing and grew up there. So it's one of those things when you're from an area, you kind of see the evolution of certain things. And I think it's really cool. And I feel like, the Free Art Birmingham really brings a lot to that too. And like gets people involved in doing something. Mm-hmm. So that's really cool. Did you go to school for art or anything like that?
I did not. I was going to go to Montevallo for photography, but I had a bunch of elder, wise people tell me like, hey, we did that. Try not to do that because you'll just waste your money. You're better off just kind of winging it yourself and doing it that way. So
that is so interesting. That's kind of like the advice that I had given my younger brother at the time. He, was going into graphic design and that kind of thing. I was like, man, I don't use anything that I really learned in as far as like software and stuff. None of that even applies anymore. It's changed so much since when I was in college, which was like 2002. So that's crazy. I mean, it just, to me, it's like, okay, yeah, I learned some design principles and, color theory and things like that. But I really could have learned that on my own, probably, just like, you know, reading some books and things. And of course, now with the internet, you can do just about anything. You can learn just about anything. So that's really interesting that someone gave you that advice, because I feel that myself, like that's really kind of true. I know a lot of people, like I have a graphic design degree. And so photography is definitely one of those things that you could take on yourself and just, figure it out as you go, I guess, are you doing like digital photography, that kind of thing?
Yes. So pretty much, yes, all digital. I have a couple of like film cameras and stuff that
Yeah.
are like my grandparents from like forever ago. I have so many antique old cameras that they've given me. I just haven't bit the bullet to go pay that penny for all that film,
Oh,
just
yeah.
for it to, mess up because it's not been used in like 40 years or something. So
Yeah, I actually had a photography class in college a long time ago. And of course, it was definitely film. And I had to learn how to develop film and do all of that. And I just say, like, it was one of those things that was really cool and really interesting. But at the same time, I mean, like, how many photographers are developing their own film today?
right.
They're literally in a dark room, and I mean, at this point, you just, you have some kind of software like, Photoshop or something, and you can do really cool stuff and not ever need to do any of that. So do you like use any kind of software or anything with your photos? What's kind of your process there?
I basically just use classic Lightroom. I've tried dabbling with Photoshop and I just can't get the hang of it for some reason. So I've just kind of stuck with Lightroom. Tweaking with things definitely have progressed in the last year in the sense of figuring things out and using certain tools and different things along those lines. So it's definitely a process.
Yeah. Yeah, Photoshop can be very overwhelming. I think any of the Adobe, like the main software, can be very overwhelming. It's got so many things going on. Like I use it, but I don't use it like that.
I
Like
have
I'm
some
going,
friends that are so good at Photoshop, and I'm like,
yeah.
I really just need to ask them to sit down with me for a couple of hours one day and just kind of like show me the basics.
Yeah. There's so many different like, and each person that knows Photoshop, they probably have a completely different experience with it, honestly, because it's like it depends on what they're doing with it. Because I can do graphics and things like that in Photoshop, but as far as like editing images and doing effects and things like that, not so much. So I could see using Lightroom. I think that's great that you have something like that you're using. And do you do any kind of like commissions or photo shoots? How do you go about like doing your photography?
So I bought my first camera back in November of 2020 as kind of like this year's been crap kind of thing. So I'm going to treat myself.
Yeah.
So I went on Facebook Market and found someone and got a decent camera and just kind of started winging it. There was a bunch of like Lex Soul meetups, and she basically just creates these events for people like photographers and models to come out to certain parts of Birmingham and just kind of do like a impromptu shoot like on the streets and stuff like that. And so that was kind of like my first photo shoot. There was a lot of critique I had on myself just because I didn't know basics of camera stuff or how to do this and that. And so I had a couple of pictures come out good. So that actually made me feel a little better because I was starting to like get kind of, leery. But then after that, I just kind of started asking my sister and her friends to do photo shoots for me. And then just kind of did like a giveaway so I could get some more picture access. And then I had a couple of friends reach out to me to like do a couple of their own photo shoots. So
Oh, interesting.
it's basically, I'm just asking people to do photo shoots. There's a bunch of like local models and stuff like that are really heavy into like doing creative shoots. So I have them kind of on the the save tab bar to contact whenever I need someone. But a lot of times a few friends and stuff will just reach out to me.
That's fun. And it sounds like, I don't know, I've never heard of that before as far as like photographers and models and people having like an impromptu photo shoot.
Right. Whenever I finally found out about or heard about it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And she does a bunch of little bitty things like that for all the locals. So she's pretty cool.
Do you guys do they come out with like some kind of theme in mind or?
So yes. So usually she has like different themes, like, 90s theme, streetwear, monochromatic, different things along like that.
Yeah.
And then basically you just show up. There's like a 3-hour time frame, something like that. And then you just show up with your camera and you just start taking pictures of people. And you just kind of, after a while, people start wandering off to go to like different parts of that area and stuff like that. So it's always pretty fun. And then it's kind of a good way to meet more creatives and stuff without actually having to like search for someone like, oh, who can I like befriend kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. You'd make a lot of like contacts with people and then you would be able to, I mean, have you met anybody where you can kind of see as a mentor or somebody who's, giving you advice or anything like that?
Sort of, kind of, but I'm still kind of shy. So that's why I kind of enjoy being behind the lens because it's like, it's kind of like, when you would wear your mask in public for the first few times, you're like, I don't have to talk to anybody or greet them or smile. I can just go about my day. That's kind of how I feel whenever I have the camera in front of me is I don't have to communicate as much. And then some people I click with automatically personality wise. And then some people I'm just like so shy around. So
yeah, I would probably be the exact same way. It's so funny that you said that about the mask thing because I'm like, man, I like wearing a mask sometimes. I don't feel like putting on makeup or talking to anybody.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, I don't have to worry about any of that, just pull my hair back and go.
I especially enjoy it when it's been one of those days, but you got to go grocery shopping still. So you just like, you know what? We're just going to do this and we'll be fine.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So, do you have like a vision or a voice to your work yet? Do you have like kind of I don't know, like a style that you're kind of aiming for?
So, I haven't necessarily figured that completely out yet. I'm just trying to still kind of find my voice in that area. I do like coming up with creative shoots that kind of tell a story. Like I have a bunch of creative shoot ideas I want to do with my sister once the weather gets warm and we can actually be outside and everything's starting to get green again. I'll be able to do some of those creative shoots and possibly figure out more of what I want my voice to be like.
Yeah.
But definitely if anybody asks me, hey, can you do this? I'll be like, sure. We don't have to, be extreme. I can totally just get,
Yeah, that's awesome. I've got a few friends that are really into photography, and I mean, there's just so many different directions you could go in. It really just depends on what you're into. And I feel like from the work you have on your account is kind of, like you said, like telling a story, and you're mostly um, doing portraits, right? Like people.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that kind of the direction you want to stay in, you think?
Yeah, for the time being, just because I feel like I need to upgrade to another lens if I want to do any like landscape or outside photography.
Yeah.
I have gotten sometimes whenever I go, like I did a shoot for a friend at Botanical Gardens, and so it had rained that day. So I have gotten some decent pictures of like flowers with raindrops and stuff on them.
Yeah.
Critiquing myself still, but I wouldn't mind doing like wildlife or landscape stuff like that. It's just right now I'm just sticking to I guess just portraits.
Yeah. I mean, the work that you have on there is really cool.
Thank you.
and interesting. So I think it's, I think you've definitely got an eye for it. So I think it's something that you should keep trying on, there was a time where artists were like not want like being really secretive. And I've even still met people who are still very secretive about like their processes and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
If I come across somebody who's open to that and shares things, I'm like, yes, I want to follow this person. I mean, it really means to me, it's like, okay, you're my kind of person. You're not being, like, I don't know what it is. Why some people do that. I guess maybe just not wanting people to steal their ideas. Which
Yeah.
it's like, how good can your idea be? I mean, like, um, but it's really interesting that you say that, because that's one of those things that I've always felt very strongly about, is sharing that kind of thing. Let's talk art. So, what are you into as an art enthusiast?
So back when the Birmingham Art Museum would do the Art on the Rocks, I really enjoyed going to that just because of the art museum can be a bit boring per se during the day, just because it's almost been the same exact thing since I can remember, since like I went on field trips in elementary. So usually whenever they have like their after hours events, I like going to those just because everything's so lively. Again, you get to meet like creative people, run into friends.
Yeah.
And then they usually have like a hands-on art thing to do. But I don't know. I've just always enjoyed trying to find different art like events, whether it be an art gallery opening or a street event or
Yeah.
different vendors or some music venue that's also got artists and things like that. I've just always enjoyed different art, because then you kind of get to see that person's personality as well
Mm,
without them having to necessarily talk to you.
yeah. Yeah. Do you lean towards any kind of genre or subject matter when you're like, oh, this is really awesome?
Just because basically it's whatever my eye catches, then I'm just like, that kind of speaks to me. So,
Yeah. That's awesome, because I feel the same way. I've actually, like, I was thinking about it, about this podcast. I was like, man, people are going to think I am just crazy, because I'm just like inviting anyone and everyone, like all types, students and beginners, and like yourself, you're an enthusiast, you like art, and then there's people who are way over into the traditional side of things, and then there are people who are way over into like these weird pop surrealism strange things,
yeah.
and so I feel like I've gotten, I think it reflects me and my interests more than anything, who I want to talk to, and just learn more about.
So, something that kind of helped really spark my art interest, even though that's just something I've enjoyed since being little,
Yeah.
was I did go to Jeff State for a little while for interior decorating, but that just
Oh,
kind of I just kind of left that because I was basically just stuck doing all basic classes. So I was like, I didn't come here to do math and English and all this other stuff. So, um, but I did have this art history class, and my teacher had actually like traveled and things like that back in the 90s. So a lot of times in the art book that we had, he would just get off the art book and just show us different things and stuff he'd been to. So when we got to Egypt about pyramids and different things like that, he actually pulled up his pictures from the 90s of like the different pyramids and the view of the pyramid from his room. And then he told us that inside, I forget which monument it is, but inside when you go in, there's this door. And if you go in that door, it's basically like this huge auditorium style kind of thing. So I guess that's where I guess world leaders go for secret meetings. But then he'd give us also these little other tips and stuff, like when he was in Italy and things like that, and walking around different cathedrals and things. He's like, yeah, if you don't follow the main tour group and you go off to the side instead of following everybody else, you'll actually be able to see this one masterpiece. And he just had the greatest stories to tell. And that's really the only reason why I continued to go to college, was the fact of I took his class for 2 semesters. So
Wow. Yeah, and when you first start out in college too, it's kind of like all those basic courses, and you don't get to the good stuff until later.
right.
I totally understand that.
Oh, I know. And the pictures are so cool to look at, just because, they're from the 90s. So everything was almost film, if not those
Yeah,
little
yeah.
bitty cameras.
Oh, yeah. Like a disposable.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I guess what you're saying is that this teacher, this professor, sort of kind of lit a fire in you as far as being interested in art and that kind of thing. I mean, like,
Yes. Because I would say about after that time is when I started really trying to find things around town
yeah,
that were like art related.
you're being someone who really enjoys art and really loves art, and is interested in all different kinds. And you've worked with artists in, different local things. What I would be interested in knowing is like kind of getting into the mind of the person kind of on the other side of the social media or the other side of the booth. What makes you purchase something like that?
So usually with situations like that, I'm really into just space itself. And so stars, constellations, planets, especially the moon, like I'm obsessed with. So if you came to my house, I basically have a couple of like art gallery walls, and most of them are like space related or have the moon of some sort. Like I have this one local photographer, she has a picture of Vulcan, and at the tip of his little spear is a full moon. And then back
Um,
when we had the eclipse, I bought 2 prints from a local artist of that he had taken over Birmingham. So like things like that. And then the woods really speak to me, just in the sense that where I grew up, Buck Creek kind of ran through our neighborhood in Alabaster. So I would basically stay down there all the time. And then my grandparents, one of my siblings, he actually did this old painting of it's kind of like a tree sitting in water. And it's just all kinds of different colors. And it's probably my favorite piece of artwork. And I like got it framed and everything. So it's basically nature and space that speak to me the most. And then I'm obsessed with Halloween. So, of course, if I see something Halloween or Tim Burton or Coraline or anything like that related, I automatically go for it.
oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm the same way. I think that that's really interesting because you're like it's really sort of something that has to speak to you personally that you really enjoy, and then that's the thing that you're into. So you're not necessarily purchasing art that's, maybe has a certain aesthetic or look to it, but something that has meaning to you as
Yeah,
like personally, you know, do you prefer like local art?
I do prefer local art just because, in the sense, I feel like I'm helping someone else out by purchasing,
Oh,
whether it be original or print.
yeah.
Um, There is there's this one local artist that I've probably been following. Not local, I'm so sorry. There's this one artist I found through Instagram somehow, like back in 2014, if not 2013. And I like fell in love with her stuff because a lot of it is like planetary, and a
Mhm.
wolf has been my favorite animal since 5th grade. And so she has this one like painting where it's like a girl, but her face is also like a wolf howling at the moon. And that was probably my biggest purchase I've ever made for an original artwork. And it's on one of those, I think it's like a 36 by 24 canvas or something. And when it finally got here, I almost cried because it was so beautiful. And I've not seen because I have the print of it, but to actually have the physical piece of artwork that someone I've been following for a long time. And then we've kind of befriended each other in the sense that she's put me on her close stories and she's got a bunch of people. So on her close stories, I get to see things like famous rappers hitting her up for her to come see them again, kind of thing. When Matt Miller passed away, I kind of felt more connected to her in the sense that she physically has seen this person and was around them. And that was an artist's death that there's only been a few celebrity deaths that have bothered me. And his was one that kind of really bothered me just because he was a year older than me. And he was a really talented musician. And
yeah. So you felt like you were so you bought an original from her and it was pretty large and you had the print before that?
I did. So she had painted it, I don't know, probably 2013. Yeah. And she had been making prints forever. And I actually had bought the print back when it was the small one was worth $3. Now it's $10 for the small one. So it's kind of cool to see an artist grow in the sense of them raising their prices and stuff like that, because you know that they're doing decent at that point in time.
Yeah.
And then finally in 2018, I bought her artwork. So
that's awesome. I feel like that's a really interesting perspective for people that might be listening to the podcast, other artists and that kind of thing. And it sounds like, you've not only made a really strong connection with her artwork that has personal meaning to you as far as, really loving wolves, and you bought the print, but then you upgraded.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, she's, her prices are going up, so it's becoming more valuable to you. And, but you're also connected with her in a more personal way. And that, I think, has given you more connection, even, with her as an artist, but also probably makes that, I would imagine, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but might make that painting that you purchased even more meaningful to you.
Oh, yes, most definitely.
Yeah. Do you follow anyone on Patreon?
I do not. That is something I have not dabbled into.
Yeah.
Just because there's so many people I would want to. Yeah, I would almost go broke. So
well, I've actually I had started a Patreon and it didn't go anywhere. I couldn't keep up with, continuously posting something like that in all the different places and, having a full-time job myself. But what I tend to do is I'll support an artist for a little while. Mm-hmm. And then if I get interested in somebody else, then I'll move the money over there. And I kind of I'll be supporting many people with, just, it's really, some people, they only want $1, $1 a month. And then some people are $5 is their minimum. Or if I'm really interested in learning from that artist, they're creating something specifically interesting to me as an artist, then I might give a little more because I want to see their process and,
right.
Their how-to videos and things like that, which are usually higher up in the tiers. Right. These are my secrets, That's interesting. You should totally check that out because it doesn't take that much. Do more than like maybe $5 a month or something like that. But her name is Danica Seals. Do
It
you know that?
sounds familiar.
Well, she does like ink and watercolors like me,
Mm-hmm.
or like I used to do. And she would send out a postcard every month of an artwork.
Oh, wow.
I have like 20 of her paintings now because I've been, I guess doing that $5
Mm-hmm.
support every month. So it's pretty cool. Like, as someone who's really interested in art, it's kind of cool to get a freebie from, well, it's not really free, but
Yeah.
and get that surprise.
It's cheaper than.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
will say I did something familiar. There was sometimes I'll try to find art giveaways and things like that on Instagram, and usually that's how I find outside artists and things along those lines. Because usually it's never anybody local, it's like somewhere else in the US. But there was this one girl, and it's basically her just using like colored pencils and other blending things like that, and creating still life photos. So like every day she just draws something. So I sent her $5 and she sent 4 artworks, and 2 of them are originals and the other 2 are prints. So I was like,
What?
that's so cool, because I was only expecting 1. So I was like, I mean, they're tiny. They're like 4x6s. I think one's 3x3. But I mean, to
Yeah.
get original stuff from people, I'm always like, oh, this is so cool. Because I feel like that's another thing is I'm an OCD hoarder kind of thing. So everything is where it needs to be, but I just probably have more things than I should have or whatever. And so it's like, I feel like if I ever became a true artist, I would never give away my originals because I'd be like, no, I want these. Every time I see an artist give away an original, I'm like, wow, that's more power to you, because I would just want to hold on to that.
Yeah. I think, yeah, that's a good point. But so, like, are you? I'm gonna come back to that. Make a mark in my brain. Okay, gotta come back to that. So, are you following like a hashtag that's like artists give art giveaways or something like that to find these things?
So basically, once in a blue moon, I'll just get bored because I really only have Instagram and Facebook. So I just get bored. And so I'll go onto Instagram and I'll just type in art giveaway or artwork or whatever, something like that. And then just go to the hashtag. And there's always like a million hashtags. And then I just click the recent and just kind of like scroll through and look at it. I don't ever try to do the art giveaways that have people that are like, have almost 2,000 comments, because I'm like, there's no way I'm going to even to win this. So I always try to like look for the smaller businesses where it's not as many comments. It's only a couple of hundred as opposed to the 1,000. But
well, that is so, man, I've never even heard of that before. I didn't even know that artists were doing that.
It's basically kind of what I've noticed is a bunch of them just do it to try to get people onto their thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of them will also put in the comments, because some people will do what I do, but once the giveaway's over with, they like unfollow them and stuff like that. So a lot of the artists are like, hey, if you unfollow us, you get blocked, which I mean, they have that unfollow Instagram app so you can see who unfollows you.
Oh, I didn't even know that existed. You're teaching me all kinds of things right now. So like the whole, like how many originals have you gotten like that?
Oh, goodness. To be honest, a lot, because I've been at least looking up those hashtags since like 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
And I'll do it at least like a couple of times a year just to like shoot my shot. So it's like every few months I'll look one up and spend like a couple of days trying to win something, and then just give up for the next couple of months.
Yeah. That's so cool. Oh my gosh. I want to go out and find art now. It feels like almost like free art Birmingham, but
right.
on
But
social
just
media. It's like, holy cow, oh my gosh. I need to do that. That's awesome.
And that's also how I found a bunch of artists that I've just basically just fallen in love with, is because I've come across, their like art giveaway that they did.
Yeah.
And then, because after a couple of months, if I don't necessarily like their stuff, I will unfollow it. It's not like I get on there and then, oh, I didn't win this giveaway, so now I'm just going to unfollow you. I'll follow them for a while until it's just, not my cup of tea or something. And then,
yeah. So you're kind of managing who you're following and keeping up with kind of thing on Instagram?
I do, but I think that also falls under the whole being OCD-ish kind of thing. So, but like they have the little app that you can just download, and it shows you like who unfollowed you and different things like that. So, and that's how I also find like spam accounts and get them to unfollow me, because in 2016 my Instagram got hacked by like, I think someone in Russia, because when I finally got back into my Instagram, there's like 300 Russian people following me, and I went through each one and blocked them in case like they were able to somehow. So I'm like super paranoid when it comes to that. So I'm always checking spam. I think one day I deleted like 300 people off of from following me or whatever.
Yeah.
On Instagram, just because I was like, this is all spam stuff. So.
Yeah. Like I've gotten a whole lot of spam lately, as far as like people wanting me to like DM them and
Those
send
message
them
request
art.
things.
Yeah. Yeah. They're like, we'll post your art for so much money or whatever on our account that has, so many thousands of followers or whatever. And I'm like, man, I mean, it has gotten really bad. And I feel like
I can understand.
Yeah, I feel like it's maybe associated with certain hashtags that I'm using.
I think so.
Yeah.
Just because I know, so with my photography account, I don't get a lot of those, but I do get a lot of, hey, would you like to do model or like have your photography thing? And then the free art account will get those spam ones where it's like, hey, we'll post your art. And then I'm always mentally like, this isn't even our art.
Yeah. I mean, like I'll be posting like a quote or something, like a meme, and they'll be like, and so it's got to be associated with a hashtag.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to go through it. Can you, on the app, what is the name of the app that you're talking about where you can like see people and follow?
Basically, I just put into the App Store, unfollow Instagram, and then just kind of went with the first one that popped up.
Okay. Because I'm wondering, does it show anything associated with the hashtags that you're using?
I've never fully looked into it because they have a bunch of different like options that you can do. So I would have to look more into it.
Yeah.
That's a good idea though.
Yeah.
Having that option.
I mean, I don't know when it was, but it felt like Instagram got so spammy all of a sudden.
Yes. I feel like that happened when they started doing all of those ads and stuff in between your stories.
Yes.
I remember that used to not be there. So.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know. I do social media for my day job, and I should know more about this, but I feel like, I should be keeping up more with like with the changes in social media and what's happening, because I mean, it is obvious that something, like they changed something in the way that they are operating and their algorithms and what they're allowing to come through. But I mean, I think maybe they're trying to build up the shopping part of Instagram.
I think so too, because I feel like in the last year, or at least since COVID, now you got the little shopping button at the bottom of your screen on Instagram and stuff like that. Or
Yeah.
And then especially Facebook heavily pushing all these ads and things along those lines. It's
It
like
starts.
every time if I'm just bored enough, I'll sit there and every ad I get, I'll like block it, and I always mark it as like um, sexual activity or something like that. So maybe Facebook will never show it to me again. I think Instagram on one of their options, it's like it's offensive to me. So sometimes I'll just press that because I'm like, I dare them to show this again.
Oh, that's so funny. I mean, like I've had issues where you're getting some kind of weird um, spam or whatever from somebody that is actually like, okay, I don't want to see that.
Yeah,
So I do report those people, or if I see like, and for a little while I kind of felt bad about it. I was like, man, this might be their thing or whatever, but I'm like, I don't want to see these things on my account. So that's interesting that you do that. That's so funny. But have you actually bought any art through the Instagram shop or anything?
I have not. I've there's been a couple of artists and stuff I've found that I've liked and I've bought their things, but I've always just clicked their website link that's on their Instagram page. I've never actually used the shop button on
Oh,
Instagram.
yeah,
I'm kind of sketched to use the shop button on Instagram to be real. So,
yeah. That's
but I also feel that same way about Facebook page. I'm like, that's a lot of information to put on something that's Facebook, like your card and stuff.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I have to admit that I've done those things, but at the same time, like I bought my husband something from Instagram just to see what would happen. Like I have a shop up on my Instagram, and I bought something, and it seemed to take a really long time for it to come. But it was during the pandemic, so it was hard to say,
Right.
like how much that was actually affected by it being Instagram. But then I've also had people buy things from me on Instagram, and I use a Squarespace website, and that's how
Hmm.
I was connecting everything together um, through their HTML and their templates and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
so when the person purchased they bought a T-shirt with my art on it, but that was being printed by like a printer, like a large format printer where you can get your art printed on anything. And so
Yeah.
it was a weird experience because it didn't go through all the way.
Oh no.
And I actually knew the person from high school. So they contacted me. I was like, hey, I just bought a shirt. And I was like, okay. Like I don't see it anywhere. Like it didn't come through. And so I'm sure that there's probably other people out there who are trying to sell things on Instagram and they may not have it connected correctly. And because it kind of is a little, I don't know, um, difficult to get set up. And, if you're trying to sell something through your website and Facebook and Instagram and connect it all together, things can get lost.
Oh,
So
I could imagine.
yeah, yeah. And I'm like, I've got stuff up, but now I'm kind of wary of, okay, are people trying to purchase something from me and I don't know?
Right. And they're also not reaching out to let me know,
Yeah.
hey, it's been a couple of weeks and I've not heard anything or gotten an email update.
Yeah, it's like, So, I mean, I was being kind of brave buying my husband a gift off of it. It didn't cost that much, so I guess I was like, let's see what happens.
Right.
But that's interesting that I'm just very frustrated with social media altogether sometimes. But I think that is so cool that you're getting original artwork from artists like that. That is crazy. I've got to check that out. And then I imagine those artists are getting a lot of connections with followers and things like that. And
Oh yeah. And then if I ever win anything, I always try to post about it, because it's like, it's always saddening whenever someone wins something of yours or they're supporting you somehow, but they don't like repost it. So you can kind of like repost it and kind of get the word out. So I always try to, make a post about it, talk about them. So then at least maybe someone else that's following me, they're like, hey, I like their stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely one of those, if I can't support you financially, then I'm probably going to support you with trying to expose you as much as possible to others.
Yeah. I'm the exact same way. I really try to share as much as I possibly can. And I feel like when I was doing when I first did Free Art Birmingham, I was like post, and then you were like, no, don't post anything. I'm like so trigger happy with like sharing people's stuff that you're doing. I was like, oh no. I messed it up. I messed up the surprise or the secret, the hint or whatever that you're giving people around town. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh no, I don't know if I'm doing this right. But I think that's really cool that you're involved in that kind of stuff. And it's been really interesting talking to you, Evan, because I think you come from a couple of really interesting perspectives in that, you're really interested in art and you're buying art and you're involved in, collecting art and that kind of thing. And, there are artists that are going to be listening to this, and it would be really interesting for them to learn about this stuff too, and kind of see it from your point of view, Right. So thank you so much for doing this podcast with me.
Oh, thank you for having me. I love being able to help out in any way.
Thank you for listening to Art Talk with April. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please subscribe.